I used to think silence was weakness, that staying quiet meant losing. 5 years taught me otherwise. Silence can be a ledger. Silence can be a trap. Silence can be a knife you don't pull out until everyone is leaning the wrong way. The conference room at Whitman and Cole went quiet after my brother spoke. Grant sat at the head of the table, chin lifted like a judge who'd already reached a verdict. He didn't rush. He never rushed when he thought he was winning. 11 rental properties in Florida, he said. Tampa, Orlando, Miami Beach. Each city rolled off his tongue like proof of character. Combined value around $2 million. Since I've been managing them, they should be mine. Mom's hand landed on his shoulder immediately, instinctive, protective. It's only fair. Dad nodded without looking up, eyes fixed on the glossy tabletop as if agreement required no witnesses. Lena, can you understand? Grant's always been the responsible one. Aunt Diane smirked from the far end of the table, wine glass tilted toward her lips. What would you even do with rentals anyway? You file permits for the city. I kept my hands folded in my lap. Calm on the outside, tight on the inside. 5 years of letting them believe that version of me. The harmless daughter. The background sibling. The one with the sensible job and no ambition worth mentioning. 5 years of listening while Grant bragged about his tenants, repairs, his late night emergencies. 5 years of watching my work retold as his virtue. Grant leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, the posture of a man already congratulating himself. Nothing to say, no tantrum. Good, maybe you're finally accepting reality. I almost smiled. He thought silence meant surrender. I turned to Dad, 73 now, thinner hair. Slower movements. Still choosing my brother by reflex, like muscle memory. Dad, I said softly, you really don't know, do you? The fork slipped from his hand and clattered against the plate. The sound was sharp, out of place. His face went pale. Grant snapped forward in his chair. No what? I didn't look at him. Did Grandpa Hank ever tell you he transferred the properties before he died? Dad blinked, confused, lost. Transferred. No, Grant handled the paperwork. Grant's smile tightened, stretched thin. They're in the estate, that's why we're here. I unlocked my phone. My thumb didn't shake. Mr. Whitman, I said, turning to the attorney. Please pull up the county property records. I'll read you the addresses. The lawyer hesitated. The room held its breath. Then he turned to his laptop. The soft clack of keys filled the silence, along with Grant's breathing, suddenly loud and uneven. The projector flickered to life, a blank search bar glowing on the wall. I read the first address, Tampa. Whitman typed. He hit search. The result snapped onto the screen. Owner Lena Maris Caldwell. Recorded February 18, 2019. Mom gasped. Dad's face drained of color like someone had pulled a plug. Grant let out a short laugh that sounded wrong even to him. That's not right. Pull the deed. Whitman clicked again. A scanned quitclaim deed filled the wall. Recording stamp, notary seal. Grandpa Hank's looping signature unmistakable. My name printed beneath it, clean and final. No one spoke. I took a slow breath and read the next address. Orlando, same outcome. Then Miami Beach, same. 11 properties, 11 confirmations. The same truth repeating itself until denial had nowhere left to stand. Dad's voice finally broke the silence. You've owned them this whole time. I met his eyes. Since before Grandpa died. The room shifted. Chairs creaked. Someone whispered my name like it was a question. And that was the moment they realized my silence hadn't been ignorance. It had been preparation. I nodded once, slow and deliberate. Since before Grandpa died, I said. He settled it while he still could. Dad stared at the screen like it might rearrange itself if he waited long enough. His mouth opened, then closed again. Grandpa never said. He warned me, I continued. About Grant. About money going missing. Cash rents that never hit accounts. Repairs that existed only on paper. He told me to stay quiet, keep my day job and document everything. Every month. Every property. The air thickened. Mom's hand dropped from Grant's shoulder. Aunt Diane leaned forward now, curiosity replacing smugness. So you stayed quiet and just let Grant run things. I turned toward my brother. His eyes were locked on the word OWNER projected in harsh white letters. Like it was an accusation written in a language he'd never learned. He didn't run them, I said. He took from them. I reached down and lifted the binder onto the table. It landed with a dull, heavy thud that made Mom flinch. Forensic accounting, I said. Rent rolls, bank statements, vacancy timelines, invoices that don't match work orders. Every dollar traced. Total documented theft, $186,340. Grant shot to his feet so fast his chair scraped backward. You set me up. No, I said evenly. You volunteered. His face twisted. You let me think. You watched? I nodded. I watched you lie. I watched you steal. I watched you assume no one was paying attention. Mom reached for my wrist, her grip trembling. Lena, please. This is your brother. Family. I pulled my hand free, gently but firmly. Family had 5 years to notice me. Grant turned to Dad, desperation cracking through his anger. Dad, tell her. This is insane. You know me. Dad didn't look at him. His gaze stayed on the table, on the binder, on the consequences spreading out in front of him. His silence was heavier than any accusation. I slid a sealed envelope across the table toward Whitman. My attorney's complaint. Civil and criminal. I file it Monday. The attorney didn't open it yet. He just nodded, already understanding what this meant. Grant stared at the binder like it might swallow him whole. You'd ruin me over money. I shook my head. You ruined yourself over entitlement. I stood. The chair legs scraped softly against the floor. The properties aren't up for debate, I said. The only thing left is consequences. Mom sobbed once, sharp and quiet. Aunt Diane leaned back, suddenly distant, like she wanted no part of what was now undeniably real. I didn't wait for anyone to speak. I walked out. The lobby smelled like polished stone and expensive coffee. My heels clicked against the marble, each step steady, measured. My phone vibrated in my hand before I reached the elevator. Grant, and again. Each call louder than the last, even in silence. I didn't answer. Monday morning? I sat in my attorney's office and signed the complaint. The pen felt heavier than it should have. When the clerk stamped it Rossi-Ivad, the sound was small, almost polite. But it split the last 5 years cleanly in half. By Tuesday, 2 detectives met me at a coffee shop downtown. The binder lay open between us like a map. They asked questions. I answered without embellishment. Dates. Amounts. Patterns. I sounded calm, even to myself, like I was reciting weather forecasts instead of describing my own brother. That night, Grant left a voicemail. His voice was hoarse, stripped of its usual arrogance. I'll pay it back. I swear, I didn't think you knew. As if ignorance could rinse his hands clean, I stared at the screen for a long moment, then typed a single line, turn over the keys in 48 hours. No explanation, no emotion, just terms. He didn't respond, and he didn't comply. 48 hours passed without a word. No keys. No apology that meant anything. No acknowledgement that the ground under him was already gone. So on Friday morning, I changed the locks. The locksmith didn't ask questions, he never does. Metal clicked. Bolts slid home. With every turn of his tools, something in my chest loosened. When he handed me the new set of keys, they were warm from his palm and heavier than they looked. The first property I drove to was the Tampa duplex. Not because it was the most valuable. Because it was the first one Grandpa Hank had ever shown me. The place looked ordinary. Sun-burned siding, hibiscus brushing the fence, a toddler's chalk circles looping across the driveway like planets. Nothing dramatic. Nothing triumphant. Just normal life, protected by unglamorous diligence. I stood there longer than I needed to. Listened to the hum of traffic. Watched a tenant water her plants. This was what Grandpa had meant. Not the money. The watching. The care no one applauds. By Monday, new management notices were posted. Welcome emails sent. Accounts secured. Every tenant called me by name for the first time, not as a rumor. Not as a ghost behind an email address, but as the owner. Grant left more messages. Angrier this time. Then quieter. Then nothing. The detectives called to confirm next steps. Consequences took shape. I didn't celebrate. I didn't grieve. I just kept going. On Saturday evening, there was a knock at my apartment door. Dad stood there alone. No Mom. No Grant, no prepared speech. Just an old man with his shoulders folded inward, like gravity had finally caught up to him. He didn't step inside until I moved aside. I didn't ask him to sit. He looked at me for a long time, eyes glassy, hands shaking slightly at his sides. I didn't see you, he said. Not as an excuse, as a confession. I let the silence answer first. Silence teaches better than lectures ever did. Then I handed him a copy of the deed packet. You could have, I said. It was public. His eyes filled. I'm proud of you. I believed him. Not because the words were perfect, but because they cost him something to say. After he left, I filed the last termination notice, sent the final welcome emails, updated my name where it belonged. I lay in bed that night and realized I wasn't bracing for anything. No phone calls, no accusations, no rewriting of events. Just quiet. The kind you earn. I slept without guarding my name. And for the first time in 5 years, silence wasn't something I used to survive. It was something I finally owned.